Welcome to the Sales Talk with Solar Pros podcast, created to bring together solar pros from across the globe to share the knowledge needed to accelerate the uptake of renewables for this planet. On today's show, we have the CEO of a California-based solar company, the top solar company that went from 0 to 20 million in their first 6 months. He's been named America's next self-made billionaire by Future Sharks. His story has been featured on Inc. magazine and BuzzFeed, and he's even interviewed Grant Cardone on his own live podcast. Welcome to the show, the CEO of Better Earth Solar, and more importantly, our friend, Mr. Zain Jan.
I appreciate you guys having me on. I'm excited for this Australian energy, man. When I met these guys, the first thing I noticed was the energy. So super awesome to see how much 10x energy you guys have. You're always smiling. You're always excited. And I think we need a lot more of that here in the States, man. So I'm excited for this podcast. And yeah, let's get this rolling.
Let's do it, man. Let's do it.
Awesome, dude. So we're super excited, myself, Rob, and Chad, to be here in Los Angeles, California. We've connected a few times through Instagram, actually quite a lot over the last 2 years.
Yep.
I've been watching your story as well. I've seen you, just completely blow up. And I think the world needs to hear, your story, especially, where you came from, the origins of where Zain Jan started and what helped you actually build Better Earth today.
Yeah, for sure, man. Well, I appreciate everything. I appreciate the intro. Yeah, so I grew up in a small town outside of Boston, Massachusetts. 2 immigrant parents. My dad moved here with $100, literally. And it's not a false story. He literally moved here with $100. Didn't have a place to sleep. Didn't have a place to go. Slept on the floor on a cardboard box. So that was the start of my dad's journey here. He became a U.S. citizen, and then my mom moved here, and then yeah, they had me. I came here when I was 6 months old, and both of my parents worked minimum wage jobs. My dad was a cab driver, taxi. My mom worked in retail stores making minimum wage, and we lived in a 500 square foot apartment. So very humble beginnings. And the town I grew up in, there's just a lot of drug problems, a lot of things going on, but most importantly, probably the biggest problem was mediocrity. Everyone there was focused on making $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 a year. And that was where the mentality was. And growing up, I always knew I wanted to be great. I wanted to do big things. I just didn't know how I was actually going to get there. And when you grow up in a family that doesn't have that much money, there's usually a fear-based poverty mindset. Yeah. So always, the first thing that they go to is you have to get a good job. You have to save every dollar. You have to go to college, and you have to follow this system. And naturally, being an entrepreneur, I hated following the system. I did not like following what everyone else was doing. So growing up, got horrible grades, did not do well, failed most of my classes, got tested multiple times every single year to see if I had some sort of a disability that was stopping me from learning. And that was who I was. Growing up, I, just kept failing classes. And when I got to 13, 14 years old, everyone told me that I was going to fail, from my uncles, my parents, my teachers, everyone. And no one had any bad intentions. So I don't look back and, say I want to prove them wrong or anything, but that's genuinely the path I was going down. So instead of going in the right direction, I lost my confidence and self-esteem, and I went down the wrong direction, and I started hanging around the wrong people. And at 14, I did my first drugs. Started smoking. At 15, started doing pills, started doing other things. And kind of where I was, definitely, I don't want to say it was normal, but it wasn't too frowned upon. And I got into that crowd, and my, level of ethics just completely went down. At 15 years old, how I would make money is I would go to a store, I would steal a bunch of headphones, and I would sell them back in my class. So a bit of entrepreneurship, just the wrong way. Yeah. And that led into drugs, selling different things. And just kept going down that wrong path. And when I was 17 years old, 16 to 17, my mom had a stroke. So that was a massive life-changing kind of pivotal thing in my life. And that caused me to really open up my eyes, cut off all of my friends, stop doing drugs, eliminate eliminate every negative thing around me and focus on success. So from that point forward, I've been focused on business. Started my first business 16 and a half to 17 years old in marketing, and just kind of grew it from there. Tried everything, did sales for every industry you could imagine. I tried selling cars, tried selling real estate, tried club promoting, and made decent money in all of those things, but I didn't know what I wanted to do. I just knew that I wanted to do something where I had more fulfillment and impact on the world. So I ended up dropping out of school, worked for a startup, got into the solar industry, heard a quote from Warren Buffett. He said the largest transformation of wealth in history is going to be in the deregulation of energy. I looked into his investments. He was heavily invested in solar, and I said, let's get on with solar. Joined the solar industry doing sales at a startup, then went to work for the largest solar company in history. There helped build the largest office in solar history. And then right after that, got offered to start a company, started a company, did big things. And here we are right now at Better Earth, focusing on, kind of just making the transition to sustainable energy a really cool thing, making it so everyone's environmentally conscious and actually wants to do it. And biggest problem I see today is people are uneducated, misinformed, and they don't really understand the positive effects of solar. But worst thing is they don't understand the negative effects and downstream of not switching to alternative energy, not switching to something like solar. So on top of all of the cost savings and making it economically efficient, we're saving the world. So that's what drives me every day. Probably the hardest challenge in the world is building a solar company, but it is probably the most fulfilling challenge to solve. So yeah, hopefully that gives you guys a quick intro about me and how I got into the industry.
Yeah, I mean, that's an exciting story.
Yeah.
To hear that journey as well. I mean, and we were just discussing a little earlier. Tell us about some of the achievements that Better Earth has achieved, because it was actually mind-blowing to hear that it was only since July last year. What's that, 7 months?
Yeah, like 7 months. Yeah, 7 months, sold a little over $20 million in contract. I don't know the exact stat right now. 3 months in, we actually got to 150 contracts, which I believe puts us in the top 10 sales groups in the US for solar. So, and it's a pretty high remark. And today, Better Earth just has a lot of different focuses. There's some stuff, we can't speak on yet, but there's some super exciting things happening in our world. And we're fully focused on just continuing to make the transition to solar be super easy, be economical. But the way I really look at it right now is you just have to be the best at communicating the product, because everyone is going to go solar. We're not selling something that people aren't going to use. Everyone is going to use solar. It makes sense. If you guys look outside and you see these old poles and wires and grid lines, it's completely inefficient and it's not logical. So switching to solar is an absolute no-brainer. You get to own your power. It's about who are you going to go with. And we truly believe that in solar, it's going to be the brand that ends up winning at the end of the day. It's going to be the one that the customer trusts the most. So at Better Earth, our full focus is how can our customers trust us to actually go solar? Because they're going to go solar. Is it going to be today? Maybe not. Is it going to be tomorrow? Maybe not. Is it going to be in 10 years? Maybe not. But we know that they're going to go solar one day, and we just want to know that when they are ready to go solar, we're the first people that they think of. And that's our mission every day. How do we get out there and make sure that more people know who we are?
Awesome, man. I love that. And I mean, one thing that I've heard from your story, okay, is that you've always had this long-term thinking, because you said that I want more.
Yeah.
I mean, what we find is that, with new recruits, sometimes they've got, this really short-term thinking, instant gratification. If I'm not getting it, I'm failing. How did you actually develop that long-term thinking and that confidence to continue to move on to where you are?
Yeah,
today?
I think I exercised short-term thinking. So that was the first thing. I got, like I said, I got in sales at a really young age, sold about every product you could imagine, hustled. And I don't actually recommend that people do what I did, but that's what I did. That's how I got there. I was stubborn, so I learned the hard way. I didn't listen to the advice around me. I just focused on, hey, I'm going to get money. I'm going to get money. I'm going to get money. And I got money. It was good, but it was super short term. And I realized that the money I was getting was good for my current environment that I was in. I was around people that were not making that much money. Today, it's near impossible for me to be the highest earner in my environment. It's too hard. You know, there's billionaires there. So to be able to reach that is such a massive thing, and it's so far away. So as I started to dive into it and dissect it, I realized that money was super important. It was one of the crucial numbers to measure. However, the thing that got people that money usually wasn't just the focus on the number. The number was a part of it, but they had something that drove them to get there. And then the more successful people I started to hang around, I realized these are some of the most resilient people in the world. These same people, they could be living in $100 million home, and tomorrow they could be homeless, and they would accept it. They would sleep on the floor, and they would grind their way through it no matter what. And they had this bulletproof mentality. And that's what excited me, because I saw these people, you know, these guys are older, they have tons of money, but they're fucking ruthless. And seeing how ruthless they are with just themselves and their success and their discipline, that's what motivated me. And I realized the only way to get the top is to develop that type of thick skin, develop that ruthlessness, and just to really kind of be crazy. And when you start to dive into that and dissect it, you realize the only reason people do that is because they have a much bigger purpose that's greater than just themselves. It's something that's super big. So when you start, naturally, you're going to start focusing on yourself, your survival, your surroundings. But as you start to get bigger goals, you realize it's all about helping more people. And the more people you can help and the bigger impact you can have, naturally, you're going to work harder and have those ambitious goals that are going to be long-term, because it is not easy. It is impossible to accomplish those goals in the short term. They have to be long term. So when you're faced with that, you just realize, like, that's what you have to do. There's no other option. There's no plan B. There's no making quick money. There's no short term thinking. No, it's plan A. It's a long term plan, and it's all you have to do. And if I have to die not succeeding and not hitting my goals, it's totally fine with me, because I know that I'm giving it my all every single day.
Yeah, man, that's super important. And you mentioned that you've got about 75 people in the sales team, in Better Earth Sales. How do you then feed that same energy into the rest of the team, so you get the team on board with the same think?
Yeah. So first off is surrounding yourself with a good group of partners and executive team. Obviously, I don't do it alone. I couldn't do it alone. It would be impossible. It'd be really hard. If you look at every major corporation, it's never one person. It's always a very big team. Sometimes there's a face of a company, so sometimes it looks like there's one person, but there's always an amazing team around them. So I just decided that I needed to surround myself with people that I trusted, that were willing to work as hard as I did. So I got very lucky. I got an amazing group of business partners that I really trusted. I knew were willing to work on the same terms. I knew were willing to give it up. I mean, you know, with my business partners, it's one of those things where if it's a Saturday, it's a Sunday, it's a Monday, it's a Tuesday, no matter what day or time it is, we're willing to get on and make it happen. And that's what you need to surround yourself with. Way too much and way too often do I see people that are business partners, with people that, just want to work 4 days a week or 5 days a week, just want to put in the minimum 40 hours, aren't willing to go through it. And if you want to build a massive machine, you have to surround yourself with people that are going to get there. So step one was surrounding myself with an executive team of partners that was willing to have that same mentality. And when it's not just you, when it's you and 3, 4, 5, 6 other people that all have the same exact mentality and vision, and you guys all push it, naturally it's going to go down to the team. So I know I have one job every day. It's to show up, be 110%, put in all of my effort, time, and energy into the team, have my executive team do the same, and everyone is going to follow. But if it doesn't start with me, if I'm not putting in the actions, if other people aren't putting in the actions, well, you can't expect the team to do that either. You can never expect, as an executive, you can never expect your team to work as hard as you. You always have to work harder, set the bar really high. So even if they work a little less than you, that bar was set really high and they're working hard.
Awesome. Yeah. Zain, I just want to go back a little bit, man.
Yeah.
So, something that's really sparked my interest, man, is just the success that you've had so quickly. You said that you used to do a lot of drugs. What was the main catalyst, man? And you said you're also in the clubbing industry as well.
Yeah.
In the promotion industry, bars and stuff like that. Yeah. What was the main catalyst for you to go, hang on, I need to make a change and start focusing more on business and more on success? What was the catalyst?
Yeah, so I had a mini one and a bigger one. So my mini one that was short term that saved my life was my mom, which luckily she's doing amazing today. But she had a stroke and she had a 5% chance of survival. So the environment I grew up in, again, it was not, there wasn't a lot of money there. And my mom was healthy. She didn't drink. She didn't smoke. She was, everything was fine. She was young. And the only reason I could put together with all my research that this happened was through stress. And I realized, like, I'm not being a man. I'm not taking a responsibility if my mom is in stress financially or even about me, right? And that was step one, was like, I got to take full responsibility just for this person. And a part of that is being successful. I know it's my duty and my obligation to be successful for that. And that was the smaller version, right? Like that got me through and kind of woke me up and was kind of that calling for me. But the bigger one was just realizing that I had two choices in life. It was to live a life of mediocrity or live a life of massive success where I would leave such a huge legacy. And it's kind of like you have to make that decision at some point where you have to choose. Am I going to keep doing what I'm doing, make decent and okay money, keep living on the same terms, staying at this level, or am I going to decide to risk it all, sacrifice everything, sacrifice my time, my family, my friends, all of this stuff to go and do something much bigger that maybe not today am I going to get rewarded for, but maybe 50 years down the road or 100 years down the road, people are going to remember me for. And I had to make that decision. And I know a lot of people that aren't willing to make that decision. And I know I had to just sit down there and say, do I want to do this? And I chose option B. Like, I was going to go and I was going to go all in, and I was going to do something that I could either waste my entire life, build nothing, and just sacrifice everything, have a horrible life, or two, the option that the result that I want is build something so big that people will remember me forever. And that was enough of a motivation and a reward for me to quit all of those things that I was doing that weren't the right things and sacrifice everything and just kind of go in the right direction.
Yeah, wow. But where do you think that originally comes from? That that drive, that internal motivation to be successful, to focus on money. Like, where does that come from, man?
Yeah, I mean, I have to say it's probably how I grew up. Like, I really did not have the things that I wanted. It was a really hard environment, and I saw my parents fucking work so hard day in, day out, and to have nothing. I saw them work that hard daily basis, work 60, 80 hours a week to live in a 500 square foot apartment in not the nicest part of town. So when I saw that, I was like, this just, it isn't right. I don't want this life. And I think a lot of the motivation came from, I never want my kids or my family to go through what I went through. So I think that was one. And then two, I've always wanted to be important. I've always wanted to do big things, ever since I was a little kid. And growing up, actually, I wasn't that important of a person. Like, I constantly failed. I had bad things happen. Started just from school, didn't do good in school. So I constantly got no. You're not going to succeed. You're not going to win. It's never going to happen. Yeah, no, like a tremendous amount through my life, like zero. From when I was born till probably like 17, I probably had no wins, 0 wins in that entire period. It was all losses, complete L's. And at 17, it started to turn for me when I started to focus on the right things. But because I went through such a long time of no, today it's near impossible to tell me no, because if I want something, I'm going to get it. Because I got told no so many times that you can't tell me no anymore and have it affect me. I'm going to keep on going at it until I achieve the result that I'm going for.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I love hearing that, because for many people who actually hear a no a few times is enough for them to actually quit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
so they deselect themselves immediately.
That's literally success. Like when I was saying earlier, when I started surrounding myself with an environment that was much greater than I was and did a lot of things, the number one thing I noticed was the resilience of these individuals. I just know that these people would go and sleep on a street if they had to in order for success. And that's the part that excites me. It's probably the part of entrepreneurship that fires me up the most, is being able to just know that there's no losing. As long as you're showing up every day and making it happen, there's no losing. You can, times can be good, they can be bad. As long as you stay consistent, at some point you're going to make it. And that's my favorite part about business, because unlike sports, sports, you have to have a level of talent, right? Yeah. You got to be crazy, you got to be good, and all that stuff. But there's definitely a level to talent there, and there definitely is only so much you can control. But I truly believe in business, because you don't have this short window, right? In sports, you pretty much, if you want to be a professional star, you got to crush it by at least 21, 22, 23. If you're out of that age, it's going to become significantly harder. Yeah. Same thing with modeling or something like that. You get a little too old, like whatever, right? Acting, like you can only do it for so long before you have to call it quits. Yeah. Business is a profession that I believe you can do for your entire life until the day you die. And I think that gives you so much more time to control your outcome. So because you have that time to control your outcome, even if you absolutely suck, if you just put in the time every single day, there's going to be a time that you're going to end up making it. And that's where I truly believe if someone has a resilience and they're willing to take the nose and put in the time, they're going to make it. I think it's a guaranteed success.
Dude, I see a lot of information around here, man. I see a lot of books. I see a lot of data around your place, man. And look, obviously, you're really in tune with not only your spiritual side, but also personal development. Yeah. Like, where's the data? Like, who's been the one mentor that you've really gone to get where you are today, and where you're heading in the future?
Yeah, I think you guys know Grant Cardone, 100%. Yeah, no, I actually didn't tell you guys this story. I FaceTimed Grant Cardone at 16 years old. This is I don't know how many people know this story. You guys are gonna laugh at this story. You guys are gonna laugh at this story. I was 16. Okay, you will not believe this. He was doing a Young Hustlers call, I think it was. It was some podcast. I forget what it was. And some interesting guy called him. Some business guy, whatever. I think it was a real estate investment or something. So Grant wanted to talk to him. So Grant covers the mic, and he gets the phone and kind of hiding his face tells him his number and tells him to call him. Wow. And I was huge. I loved Grant first off, right? Because this is before Grant was big. I think he was still in California at the time, maybe, or he was just moving to Miami or something. And he wasn't that big, right? He wasn't who Grant is today. But I remember just hearing one story of him and his drug use and all the things that he had to go through. And that's where I realized, this is my guy. I'm literally the same. I'm a counter copy of this guy. I feel like I had the same exact upbringing, right? So I was like, I have to talk to this guy. So I literally got the best speakers, turned up the volume, and literally decoded his phone number. Dude, and ready? I'll never forget. I had an iPhone. Yeah. I still have the number. I still talk to Grant, right? I put in the number and it turned blue on iMessage. And that's when I was like, fuck, this has to be it. I FaceTime him. He's with Elena and they fucking pick up the FaceTime. We have a 20-minute talk, changes my life, tells me, Zain, you're in complete control of your life. You're at the throne of your life. Don't listen to anyone around you because they're not going to know what's best for you. Listen to yourself. You're at the throne and just absolutely conquer. And that's how I got onto Grant. Yeah, man. And then since then I stayed in connection with Grant. He connected me to a lot of different things, always influenced my mindset, but it was always that ability to just be able to go the extra mile and be different than what what society tells you to do. That's the part I loved, and be able to break the boundaries. And up until the point I met Grant, I didn't know it was okay to break the boundaries. I thought I had to be politically correct. But when I realized it was okay just to be myself and say whatever the fuck I wanted to say, that's when I realized wow, when I turn 18, I can just be me. I can just go out there and be me, and people are going to actually appreciate it if I do well. In school, if I be me, I get kicked out. I get suspended. I get expelled. In the real world, if I be me, I could be a massive success if the energy's in the right direction.
Yeah, I'm just blown away by that, because that's one big takeaway that I had from when I came across GC for the very first time as well, because it just gave me the permission to be me. I mean, we've been talking about aggression, this drive, this enthusiasm, and it was always, suppressed one way or another, because it's wait a minute, is this guy a little crazy or is delusional? But then you see Grant operating at the levels that he does at, 60 plus years of age, and you're like, man,
it's inspiring.
Maybe I'm not crazy enough.
Yeah, for sure.
I've actually just got to get more crazy, more 10x.
Yeah.
So that's what
it was funny, because yesterday we were walking to the Grand Central Market, and it was what time was it? It was about 8 o'clock, maybe 7:30, and we were tired. We were like, oh, we're tired, and we're like, wait, hold on a minute. Grant's 65 years old, and sometimes he goes live at 10:30 p.m. not to sell, $100 million deals, but to sell $200-$300 tickets to the GrowthCon.
They still have that same level of significance because he just shows up.
Yeah.
And so we thought, fuck it, let's show up as well, and we did our own live as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. And I think a lot of people need that message, and that's why I don't think that message is for everyone. Like, there's totally a lot of people that's not going to click with. But I know that if I can ever reach, the 16-year-old version of me and kind of give them that permission to be themselves, I know that is going to change the world. Because I just look at myself and I look at what I'm able to do, what I'm able to conquer, and how many people I'm able to give opportunity to and help. And I look at how all of that was sparked through just getting the permission to be myself. And I know if I can just spark that in even 5 people in my life, I'm going to make an impact that's going to be bigger than I could ever imagine.
Yeah, that's huge. I mean, we feel that with our team, because everyone's coming in with a purpose. We've got so much love for them, and they want, that change, and we want that, the vehicle that we're creating to be that catalyst.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. Well, no, I think what you guys do is remarkable. And for everyone, who's seeing, you guys and you guys leading your team, like, it's tremendous to have a group of executives and people that have the vision you have, care about your people as much as you do, and care about a level of excellence. That's the number one thing you could ever demand from your team is excellence. And if you don't have leaders that demand excellence, you're probably not working at the right place. Sometimes I look at people and they want to work at, a place that seems fun, it seems easy, but in reality, your subconscious is going to force you to actually end up leaving that place or hating that place because they're not demanding you to be the best version of yourself. But when you go to a place that's hard, when you go to a place that demands excellence, when you go to a place that demands you to work, hours you wouldn't normally work or be a little crazy, you're going to end up thinking like, maybe I don't like this place. Maybe it's hard. Maybe it's not acceptable, but your subconscious is going to make you respect that more than anything. And I think that's what I go for. And it's amazing to see you guys in the Solaria team really focus on that, and kind of demand that level of perfection and excellence from your team. So I can only imagine, that, your team feels the same way, and they probably have a level of respect for you that's, super high. So it's really cool to say that, and I acknowledge you guys for that. It's cool.
Thanks a lot, Dave.
Yeah.
We're
sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so I want to touch on promotion.
Yeah.
So I know you're all about promotion, and down at Solaria, at the Solaria team in Australia, we're introducing a bunch of programs to get the whole team to promote as well. How do you guys at Better Earth not only promote the company, but how do you promote the team to promote themselves as well and get themselves out there?
So again, I think it goes back to the first thing you were asking me about. I think you asked me, how do I get that to go down to my team, right? How do I get my level of, desire and want to go down to my team? It's the same thing with marketing. Yeah. People always look at the example that's led for them. So I notice when I start doing a lot of stories, when I start tagging people, my team does the same exact thing. And it just kind of continues to drip on forward and people get inspired by it. So step one is just everyone being on the same page and agreeing that promotion is the best way. So with Better Earth, what we try to do is just realize that like Better Earth doesn't just need to be solar, it needs to be everything. And that's why we came up with the name Better Earth, because if you see Better Earth on a shirt, you're not going to know it's a solar company. You're not even going to know it's a company. You're just going to look at it and say, it's a really cool name. Like, it's a pretty damn cool brand. What is that? And a cool logo, right? I don't know if you guys know the meaning of the logo, but it's the Pangea. So it's all the continents kind of coming together. So it's kind of bringing all of us together, right? So it's a cool little symbol there. That's exactly what you have to focus on, making sure that everyone knows that 24/7 your brand is being promoted. And it's not just about business, it's about people knowing who you are. Because when I look at Better Earth, it's not just a vehicle that we are creating for solar, it's a vehicle that we're creating to truly better the earth. And one of the ways you better earth is by getting known out there, by people actually seeing the impact that you're having, because so many people have a amazing, tremendous energy and they have an amazing story. The place where they fall down and lose is they don't get it out there. Not enough people are able to see and hear that message. So constantly throughout the day, I'm trying to do it myself with Better Earth. Our Better Earth marketing team is trying to do it for Better Earth, and we're trying to get that to have a residual effect on our team. And if you can just continue to breathe and live that every single day, be constant and consistent with it, and make people believe that like you're not selling them solar. You're selling them a dream and a vision to be a better person. You're selling them a dream and a vision to be a better example and human being. That's something that everyone can feel confident in selling, because sometimes I notice people like to make their sales and their life kind of separate, right? They like to make their work and their life kind of balanced. But the reason they do that is because they feel like, oh, if I'm out at a club or a bar or, just getting a drink with a friend, getting some coffee, I'm doing something wrong by talking to them about business. They're clocked out right now. Well, we don't need to talk about business. But when you're talking about something that's truly transforming the earth and helping people, you need to be talking about it 24/7. So help make the mission so easy for people to be sold and bought into, and make them realize that solar is just a small part of it. There's a lot more that goes into it, and people will naturally sell the product because they're obsessed with the mission. And when you can get that obsession, it's remarkable.
Yeah, strong.
Now, you mentioned like a lot of things about your environment, the standard that you're setting for your team members as well, which is obviously very high. And you also mentioned earlier that you had about 7,000 people or so reaching out. Hey guys, look, I want to be part of that environment. What traits do you actually look for to be able to separate those who you believe are going to be worthy of being in your environment and help raise that standard a little bit higher, or not?
Yeah. So number one thing I look for is, first off, going back to myself. I knew if I was 16, if I got to hire the 16-year-old version of myself, I would be the luckiest person on earth, right? So I know that person's not going to have a big resume. I know that person might not, know the right things. I didn't know how to carry or present myself because the environment I grew in, I wasn't around people that could present themselves professionally. So I'm actually never expecting those things. I look at those things as brownie points, as little plus points, like they help someone out, but they're never the reason that I'm hiring someone. I'm hiring someone based on their, going back to, successful people, resilience. What are they able to withstand? How much negativity can they take? How many no's can they take before they break? And when you realize that and you kind of have that mentality, you just ask them questions around, what are their goals? And one of my favorite questions to ask people is what do you like to do? What are you interested in? What do you do outside of work? And usually when the answer is just I just want to focus on work, I just want to, build something, it's related to growth, that you have someone that is obsessed with that. But, when you hear people, probably the biggest red flag to me is people that don't know what they want. They're just super confused. And that's usually someone that just needs help or needs finding a direction. But when someone has the passion, the resilience, and they know that they want success and they're demanding it, you can just see through that person. So I don't care how you dress. I don't care how you look. I don't care what you say to me. That's all workable. We can work on that at Better Earth. We can fix that. We can transform that. Those are human beings. You can develop them, train them. It's so funny for me. I remember when I started my first company, people would come in day one and, they'd look all scruffy and bad and stuff. And then you watch over a 2-week period without even saying anything to them. If their environment is looking good, they just switch, You guys come up with some energy, some gel, they have the hair slicked back. They're wearing different glasses. These guys went and spent their whole check at the Gucci store. I'm like, man, these guys, fresh. Yeah, I know these guys are looking fresh. Right. And when you get in that environment around you, that just naturally happens. So that's why when people are like, oh, I don't want to hire this person because they've worked at too many places before and for short periods of time, or they don't dress well, or they don't talk well. I'm like, you're being selfish. You're giving up on talent because you're not willing to develop and train them. You want someone that's pre-made and done, but that's not the way business works. You have to build stuff. You have to develop stuff. But if they have the passion and you can see that they're willing to do whatever it takes, that's where you have the right person, because you can ultimately develop them to be whatever they want to be and whatever you want them to be. But the first step is they have to want it bad. And if they don't want it, it's not going to work. I've seen people all the time. They come in with a perfect resume. They look good. They talk good. But you just know that they're not about it because they're just kind of posing or showing off. But that they're just going to jump from opportunity to opportunity because that's just their mindset. They don't care about winning by all means necessary. And that's why when I'm looking for people, I actually prefer young people that don't have that much going for them, because I know that there's going to be no ego involved there. I know that I can develop that person to be, what they should be. But when you get people that sometimes are too far along, there's an ego there. There's some pride there, which stops you from being able to sometimes develop them.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, speaking of working and developing, I mean, what does the first 2 to 4 weeks actually look like from when someone actually plugs in?
At Better Earth? Yeah. So, I mean, it obviously depends what role you're going to be taking, but, you know, let's talk about sales. So, sales, step one is we're going to give you just the basics of solar. So before you come out here, you're going to go through modules and trainings to understand what solar is, understand what sales is, understand kind of communication. You'll have some brief tests on that. So, you know, we can make sure that you're up to speed. And then day one, you know, we're going to hand you some information. You know, we want to just kind of sit in a classroom, get a feel for you, do a tons of role play and pitching. And then day two, straight into sales, just like straight in the Shark Tank on the doors, like just hit doors, get rejection, get failure, get hurt, you know, get tons of no's, feel like crap about yourself. And just know that every day from that point on is only going to get better. That first day is going to be your hardest, and it's only going to get better, and have that in mind. And that's what we do, because in sales, the best way to get better is through repetition. There is no other way. It's just through doing the task. And where does confidence come from? It comes from the action of actually doing it. So that's the number one thing. We could put them in a classroom for 3 weeks straight and give them all this material. It's not going to do anything because they're not executing. People only get confidence once they execute. So we go there, and then, you know, if they're not fully there, if they need more information, if they need to understand more about solar, we'll always go back. We'll try to figure out where the problem was. We'll try to spot where it was and try to give them training on that, maybe try to give them material. But first things first is 90% of it is just showing up and getting it done. And if we can accomplish that with them and get them really good at doing that, we've already got ourselves someone that's going to be good, because we can work on the training and the fundamentals and knowing about what type of panel and what type of inverter and how the process works. But step one that you're always looking for is someone who's just going to do it. And if you can get someone that's going to actively do it, like you've got yourself a champion.
Just step into the arena. I mean, we've got a rule as well, like frequency before greatness, you know? GC. Our boy Steve Spray.
What is because you know, there's a lot of companies out there that do, you know, an amazing onboarding process, but then the rep goes out to field, or they go onto the doors, or, you know, face-to-face closing, and then they're just left, you know, to their own devices. What does the ongoing training, the accountability system look like within Better Earth to keep, you know, a high producer, you know, producing more and more?
It's constant and consistent meetings. I believe that, like, every single day you got to jack your people up. Like, there's no such thing as making someone that's automated and is just going to do good on their own. We're people, we need motivation, and we're usually motivated by a group of people and a bigger mission. We're never just motivated by ourselves. So when you surround them with other people that are succeeding and winning, you acknowledge people that are doing really good. Naturally, you know, you're going to start to have a very good culture and environment. So what we try to do is just get in front of them as much as possible. We probably have, you know, 4 or 5 calls a week that are at night, or sometimes even in the morning, where we're just doing personal development training, we're doing sales training, we're doing scripts, we're doing role plays, just trying to get people good. And then on a daily basis, they're having a meeting almost every single day, and then they're going out there into the field and practicing. And I believe if you just mix those two things, you know, you do a small amount of training every single day coupled with a lot of action, you're going to end up developing someone that's great. And we just consistently do that. Like, the way we look at it is, if sales are down, it just means that our communication is down. It means that our attention's down. It means that we didn't give enough attention that week or that day to sales. We didn't give that much communication. And the number one way to fix it, whenever we have a sales slowdown, I always just go to the team and I'm like, let's increase the communication. Let's talk to more people. Let's get on everyone. Let's start calling everyone. Let's start FaceTiming everyone. And that's going to lead to the best result. And we do that. You go through a little resistance to start, and then boom, it just goes up. And a lot of people try to do a million different things. Like, no, it's just increase your attention, because any time that you're losing success, it's because you haven't given it enough attention.
And losing the communication line.
Yeah, exactly. Because that's all sales is. Like, we're not doing rocket science here. We're not doing brain surgery. Like, no, we're selling. We're talking to people. We're just motivating people to get good at talking to more people. That's all we're doing at the end of the day. So what do you do to get people to do that? You talk to them more. You sell them more, right? Because every day when you have an employee, you have a sales team. What's your job? Your job as an executive is to sell them on working with you and sell them on going out and selling. How do you sell them? You talk to them. Your homeowners aren't just going to sign themselves up for solar. If they did, none of us would have a job right now, right? So it's the same exact thing. You know, your sales reps aren't going to sell themselves and sell in solar. You got to sell them. And how do you sell? Communicate.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Let's experience that communication right now. Let's assume that someone is experiencing a slump. Every salesperson has actually gone through this slump. What advice would you give to that person who's experiencing that slump right now?
Yeah. One, just believe and trust that it's going to get better 100%. First thing is faith. Like, have faith in yourself and know it's going to get better. Take it from me, someone that's gone through a tremendous amount of failures. It's going to get better. So automatically eliminate the dark thought in your head that's telling you that it's not going to get better. Eliminate that thought, completely forget about it. Number two, just go out and do it. Okay. Like, whenever I'm having a horrible time, the number one thing I do is I just do more of what I'm doing. Like, literally, whenever I'm having a downtime, I feel negative, I have two options. One, I can sit there, petty myself. I can think about it. I can get down. I can complain to other people. Or two, I can shut all of that off, channel out all the noise, put my head down, and just start going. And in sales, the number one way to do that is sell. Talk to as many people. You know, if you guys have someone on the phones who's not doing good on the phones, I would urge them to not only just make more phone calls, I would urge them to just get out there and just knock down some fucking doors. Talk to 50 people. Get back in the zone. And when you get back in it, you get 1 or 2 wins, and that 1 or 2 wins is the catalyst for that momentum effect that keeps on going. So that's the number one thing I always tell people, because there's no magic sauce. I could sit there, give you some motivation, give you some training, have you watch a tip. You're going to get short-term motivation. But if I tell you how to go and get wins and you accumulate some wins, that's going to be the largest creator of momentum that I could possibly give you.
And that comes down to that, you know, as a sales organization, that killer instinct.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That internal drive to do better. You were talking about, because obviously you guys are in massive expansion at the moment in California, obviously wanted to go throughout the States.
Yeah.
You were talking about the 60-second video that you guys want, even before you even move forward. Yeah. Like, what are you looking for in that 60-second video to really sort of pinpoint that killer instinct that you're looking for? Like, what are you looking for?
Yeah, number one is doing it. You will not, you would not believe how many people don't do the 60-second video because they don't think it's professional. It's not normal. It puts me out of my comfort zone. It's uncomfortable. My normal job wouldn't ask me to do this. That's step one. Like, it's unreasonable. The people that are willing to do it are already going to be 10 steps ahead than the other people, because a lot of people, you'd be mind blown at how many people don't want to do it because they feel uncomfortable doing it. And sorry, this isn't for you, because how do you expect someone who can't make a video go and knock a stranger's door and sell them solar? You can't expect them to do that. It's one of the most uncomfortable things. I don't know if you guys ever knocked a door. It's one of the most uncomfortable things. Yeah, and it's a scary thing. But you know, making a video seems like nothing compared to that. So that's step one. And I'm telling you, we weed out so many people just by that one step of the process. And then two is just taking the video seriously. Some people take it very seriously. They dress up, they look nice, they say something good. And some people make it 15 or 20 seconds when we tell them it's 60 seconds. If you can't follow rule one, make it 60 seconds, you're probably also not good here. We tell you it's 60 seconds, make a 60-second video. Don't make a 5-minute video. Don't make a 10-second video. Make a 60-second video, because that's exactly what we ask you to do.
So are you looking for someone on that video to really be selling hard themselves? Or are you looking
I really don't care about how they sell, to be honest. Like, obviously it's cool when you see someone that has a good pitch or sells good, but step one is, can they listen? Can they follow rules? And we tell them very clearly, 60-second video. Yeah. I'm not even joking about that.
And it's just one instruction.
One instruction. Will they follow that one instruction? When they go 5 minutes, you know that person will not last in sales because they couldn't listen to you the first time. When they go 10 seconds, you know that person's not going to take you seriously. Yeah. When you make it clear at 60 seconds, as long as you make it clear, step one is, are they going to be doing 60 seconds? And dude, if they do 60 seconds, they show up, they send the video, we're probably going to work on taking them, because I know that they could get that far. And if they can get that far, again, I can develop the killer instinct. We can develop the sales. We can develop the training. But like, I love, and I could be wrong, I could be right for this, but I love giving people an opportunity, and I love finding people that need an opportunity that are willing to work for it, okay? Because there's two types of people. The guy that's going to submit a 10-second video is not willing to go or do anything by all means necessary. But the guy that's going to film the 60-second video, the guy or gal who's going to film a 60-second video, the person who's going to listen to you, the person who's going to follow your instructions, even if their pitch is horrible, it's dog shit, they're listening to you. I know in 60 to 90 days, I can make that pitch good. And I love that, because that person will never forget that you gave them an opportunity when they weren't good, that you grew them and built them. And that person's probably going to be way more loyal to you than the guy that comes on the phone's like, yeah, I sold 30 solar deals a month. I'm already really good at this. Because that person's probably going to be full of themselves and harder to tame. But someone that you're teaching, like, that person is going to stick with you and loyal. And we've been so lucky at Better Earth. We've been able to build so many people from the start that never had solar experience, never had sales experience. And they are our most loyal people. They will be with us forever. And that's what I love about it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
As part of our onboarding process, we get people to read the 10X rule, you know, because we want to really expand their thinking so then they can obviously have a higher purpose.
Right,
I mean, that to us is like a Bible. I mean, we've read that book so many times as well. Now, you're obviously a top sales producer. For anyone that doesn't know, I mean, you're 24 years old.
Yeah.
You know, 0 to 20 mil, okay, in such a...
In this lifetime.
In this lifetime. Yeah. But, I mean, you're a top sales producer. So what do you do? What do you practice to constantly expand your thinking?
Yeah. Just a constant amount of action. Like, my day is really crazy. It's very few, hours in the day do I have time to myself, right? I wake up, constant grind. Day one, like, how do I go out there? First thing I try to do, and I'm getting a lot better at this, is gym. Like, I think that's probably one of the best ways to start your day. If you can just get action in there, eat something healthy in the morning, feel kind of good about yourself, get dressed, look good, gel the hair, make sure you're clean, make sure you smell good. Hygiene's very important. Exercise these basic steps, make sure, your environment's clean, make sure your bed's made, make sure everything's kind of nice and put away. And when you can execute on those basic steps, you already have some forward momentum. You've done yourself well, you've gone the hygiene, you've hit the gym, you've ate something healthy. Like, you got 3 big wins there already in your day. You're already farther than most of the world. At that point, it's probably 8 a.m. for me. I've accomplished all those things. Then it's out into the world. It's consistent frequency. And then usually at night when I have time, that's when I'm going to go and I'm going to study. One of my favorite things to study, honestly, today, it's changed. When I first got into sales, it was like 10X rule. Like, every single day, it was writing my goals from the 10X rule, reading them, and consistently drilling that in my head, because I knew that that's what I had to master. But when I mastered kind of the basics of the craft, like today, my goals, right? It's multi-billion-dollar organization. How do I do that? I got to listen to people that have done that over and over and over again. And who do I go to? I go to people that have done it. So today, man, like, if you look at my YouTube queue of playlists that I'm listening to, it's all CEOs of people that have built, 50, 40, $100 billion companies, and what they're doing. And I can't tell you how much I learned out of those people. I learned things about, like, hey, how do you get to the next level? How do you disrupt an industry? How do you raise, $100 billion? How do you do these crazy things that you'll never learn from just, the 10X rule? But the 10X rule is your foundation. It's the fundamental. It's what everyone needs to go through. But now I'm at a point where I'm just trying to consume information from people that are doing something so big, and that's such a big game, and just trying to duplicate what they're doing, man. And
who are some of those people?
Dude, a lot, man. So one of them that I've been really liking recently is a guy named Chamath. I forget. I honestly don't know how to pronounce his name properly. I've probably watched like 50 of his videos, though. And he's a guy who was on the founding team at Facebook, made tons of money through that, has done a lot of different ventures. And today he owns a private equity group called Social Capital. And what they do is they invest in things that are going to help the world. Stuff that's going to further develop our environment, whether it's healthcare stuff, whether it's clean energy stuff like that. And this guy, he's absolute killer, billionaire, and I just love his mentality. So I remember listening to him. I'll give you just kind of one thing I took away from him, and this will be for everyone. You always hear people say that, like, money's not important, or you will hear people say you got to focus more on impact. Small example of this, I was eating like steak or something like that, and someone across from me was like, "How could you do that? Like, why are you not vegan?" Stuff like that. And that's hypocritical, right? That they were making me wrong. And I see all these little things, and people focused on these micro stuff. And he goes, "You got to get out of that." the number one thing you have to do if you want to be successful, if you actually want to change the world, you actually care about animals, you actually care about environment, you actually care about energy, is you have to get the money. Because if you don't get the money, you're never going to sit at the right table and you'll never actually have a big impact. And I fucking love that. It's like, get the money first, get it so you can actually sit at the table. Because with $1 million, with $10 million, with $100 million, you're not sitting at the table. You want to sit at the table where you're going to change shit in the world, you got to be a fucking billionaire. So you have to go out there and get that money by all means and any means necessary. So I love that mindset, because when you look at people like that, who's considered a social entrepreneur, someone that's helping society, someone that's doing great things, heavily invested in companies like Tesla, and you see him say that, that validates the 10X mentality. It goes back to the basics, right? Because if you sit there and you just watch news, you just watch CNN, you watch this basic media, you're going to hear like, oh, like, why are people not vegan? Why are they not doing this? Why are they not doing that? You will have no impact on world if you're just going to be a victim to your environment. It has to be much bigger. So that's one guy. The CEO of Google, I love watching him. I love watching the CEO of Microsoft. Love watching some old Bill Gates TED Talks and panels. I love watching Jeff Bezos. Love watching Elon Musk. I just watched like a 3.5, you guys should watch it, a 3.5 hour round table talk with Elon Musk and his team. And it was like a very personal round table talk. They were talking about how the only place he could ever actually afford and get food was Jack in the Box, which is, like a little local McDonald's type place. And it was the only place that was open around where they were when they were trying to get food, because they were working till 3, 4 a.m. a lot of nights when they were first starting their companies. No, this is before Tesla. This is when they were building Zip2, which was their first company that they were building that ended up selling to PayPal and stuff. So just study people like that, and it will always reinforce and validate what you're doing, because when you get to this level, there's very few people around you that you can always listen to that have actually played this game before. So you got to learn from people that are playing a much bigger game. That's why the 10X rule is so amazing for salespeople, because you're learning from the best salesperson. You're learning from the top of the top. And that's always the best place to get your information from. I like listening to them. Another just last thing that I love listening to recently is banks. Listen to the CEO of all banks, Jamie Dimon, the head of Chase. Love listening to the CEO of Bank of America. And the reason I love listening to these guys is because the way they talk about money is so interesting. They're talking about money at such a high level. When you're talking about billion-dollar transactions for these guys, that is chump change for them. These guys are talking about trillion-dollar plays on money. And when you can learn about that, it's super interesting. So I've been just diving into tons of stuff about finance and learning about the way the banking system works and the way that these guys think, because the way that they operate is such a different mentality than most of the world. And that's what inspires me. So that's giving you a lot of content that I'm focused on as a business owner and where I'm trying to go. But I wouldn't immerse myself in that if I was just getting in sales. If I was just getting in sales, I would be head down focused on someone like Grant Cardone and putting all my time and energy into that, because until you get good at sales, nothing else is ever going to matter. All of that stuff is nothing without sales, because at the top of every single one of those companies is a phenomenal marketer and salesperson. And that's always their number one skill set. So until you nail that down, all that other stuff doesn't matter. And it goes back to what that one private equity guy said: get that money. The only way to get that money is sell and market. And if you can't do that, you're never going to be in business.
It's amazing you say that, man, because one of the big things that I learned from the 10X rule is always reach up. Always reach up. So in terms of your environment, the people that you surround yourself with, always reach up. For the audience, the sales guys that are out there, or the new guys that want to get into sales, how do you, what steps do you recommend for them to, start reaching up into a bigger and better environment?
Sales, 100%, dude. Like, number one thing I would give people in sales is eliminate your environment that you're used to. So completely decrease, the amount of people that you're around that aren't doing the same thing you are, and get around people that are doing the same thing you are and that are on the same page. That's number one. Environment. If you don't have the right environment, it's going to be really hard. Like, if you're selling every single day, you're still living with your parents and your parents are on the wrong page, that's going to really tremendously affect your sales, because you're going to go home, you're not going to close a deal, and they're going to nag you and they're going to tell you to get a different job. And that's going to fuck with your head when you're just getting in sales. So if I was brand new at sales, I'm 20, 21 years old. Number one thing I would do is move out of my parents' house if I'm still living with them, move into a 1-bedroom by myself so I can isolate myself, surround myself with whiteboards, get tons of books, and have my goals everywhere around me 24/7. And then once you've kind of got the environment, it turns into frequency, and get that tremendous amount of frequency. And then third thing would be training. Read the 10X rule, get on Cardone University, read different sales books, get really good at sales. And then last, number 4 is execution. And how do you execute? Take all of that stuff you've learned and actually implement it. You'd be shocked at how many people just don't send a selfie video, or they don't follow up with people on a daily basis. If you ever look at when I'm even trying to follow up with people today, whether it's in finance, a partner I'm working with, whatever the case may be, I literally, if they're not responding to me, I am texting them a few times a day. I'm sending them videos. I'm doing calls. I'm leaving voicemails. I'm sending emails, because I learned that all in sales and door to door, was that I had to do that in order to keep my customers excited about me. Today I still practice those same exact principles, and it never stops. My phone is the same exact thing. You look at a lot of my messages, it's always, let's do it. Let's do it. Let's get it done 100%. I'm with you. Like, all of my communication is the same as when I was selling door to door as what I do now on a daily basis. So if you're a salesperson, master and hone in on that craft and execute, and you'll win, dude, because follow up is where you're going to make a lot of your money. And if you give up too short or too early on with customers, you're never going to end up succeeding in sales. But if you keep on going and just know that it's not about what you say, it's not about how good you sound, it's not about your persuasion, it's about how frequently can you do it and how much of it can you do. And if you can keep doing it, like, the sales are going to start flying in.
One of the topics that we've had, over the last couple of days is your objections and delays are your customers' objections and delays.
Yeah.
Or whatever you focus on is what you'll attract from the customer as well. So I can see, what you're focusing on, which is, constant touch as you're doing all these high level things within sales, and you're attracting as well.
Yeah.
Big shout out to the boys that have driven out from Minnesota, because
Minnesota boys.
That's commitment. That's changing up the environment. So they've driven out, 5 days, something like that.
How long did it take you? 3.5.
3.5 days. Wow. So that's a change of environment. They've taken action. They've actually come here, and they're reaching up as well. Yeah. They're not going to the local.
Yeah, and guarantee if you ask them, everyone around them probably told them they're stupid, probably told them not to do it, probably told them, I bet their friends are telling them that, they're going to last 2 weeks, whatever. It's the same story always. Every time I get into a new business venture, it's the same thing. Zain, I'm trying to get in finance, right? Like, Zain, you don't have a finance degree, you can't do this. Zain, you've never built a finance company before. Zain, you need way more for that. It's just, you'll hear the same thing over and over again. And when you get to this point where I am today, no one can tell me no. And that's what I love about it. It's like, I'm going to keep going until I achieve my goals. And if I have obstacles and barriers, I'm going to break them down and keep on going. And that's what every young person needs to have, because if you don't have that, you're going to get eaten, and you're going to let other people's opinions consume your thoughts. Which is gonna, turn their goals and dreams for you are gonna be your reality. And usually people's goals and dreams for you aren't that big. They're usually very small. Even your parents, but only you can have big dreams and goals for yourself. And when you have those big dreams and goals and you're actually focused on that, a lot can happen. So yeah.
Well, strong. Love it. All right. Well, we've covered a lot. It's been an exciting chat.
Yeah, for sure.
And having you on.
For everyone tuning in, if you guys don't know who we are, Better Earth. Better Earth is a solar company based out of California right now, soon to be all over the U.S. and global. We will be in Australia with these guys soon. We're going to be partnering with them, so it's going to be really good. But if you guys don't know Better Earth, everything we talked about today is what we do. We are a movement that is focused on truly bettering the earth. We want you to be the best version of yourself. We want you to have the best products, and we truly want to impact you. So if you haven't heard of Better Earth, search us online, check out our stuff, and in any way, if we can work with you or collaborate you, make sure to contact us. And follow me as well on Instagram at Zain Jan Official, where I love to give a lot of the content that I gave today. I love to give that on a daily basis and really inspire and motivate people. But I appreciate you guys having me on the podcast. You guys have a tremendous amount of energy, and just know that what you guys are doing is very big. It's impacting the world, and I'm excited to see you guys expand to the States, because I think what you're doing there in Australia is remarkable. If you bring it to this market, you're absolutely going to dominate. So I'm excited to see that, guys.
Love it, awesome, man. We're excited. Thank you for having us in your home, man.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Just so everyone knows, we're looking out, it's the skyline of LA. We can see see the Hollywood sign from here as well. It's absolutely amazing what you've been able to acquire, Zain. So it's awesome, man.
Appreciate it. All right, guys. Well, let's kill it, and appreciate you guys having me on.
10x.
10x. Let's roll.
10x.